The previous video covered the lost generation. Let's now expound on the greatest generation 1901-1927. The greatest generation, born approximately 1901-1927, is a term coined by journalist Tom Brokaw to describe the cohort that grew up during the Great Depression and fought or supported World War II, earning praise for their resilience, sacrifice, and civic contributions. This generation is celebrated for its collective response to monumental challenges, shaping the modern world through their work ethic, patriotism, and commitment to rebuilding society. Below is a detailed exploration of their historical context, characteristics, work-centric values, cultural impact, and legacy. Historical context. The greatest generation was forged by a series of defining events and societal conditions. Early 20th century. Born during a period of industrialization, urbanization, and immigration surges in the U.S. and Europe. Technologies like radio and early automobiles shaped their youth. World War I aftermath, 1918-1920. Though too young to fight, they witnessed the war's economic and social impacts, including the roaring 20s prosperity and cultural shifts. Great Depression, 1929-1939. This economic collapse defined their formative years, with widespread unemployment, poverty, and hardship fostering frugality and resourcefulness. World War II, 1939-1945. The defining event for this generation, mobilizing millions to fight fascism or support the war effort on the home front. Over 16 million Americans served, and civilians contributed through rationing, war bonds, and industrial production. Post-war boom 1945-1960. Their efforts fueled unprecedented economic growth, suburbanization, and the rise of the U.S. as a global superpower. Programs like the GI Bill enabled education and homeownership, shaping the middle class. The following are some key characteristics for the greatest generation: resilience and sacrifice, endured economic hardship and war, developing a stoic, make-do mentality. They prioritize collective survival over personal gain. Examples include families reusing goods during the Depression or women joining the workforce, as in Rosie the Riveter during World War II. Patriotism and duty. The greatest generation acquired a strong sense of national loyalty, driven by the fight against authoritarian regimes. Military service was seen as an honor, and civilian support was equally vital. Post-war, they embraced civic engagement, participating in community organizations, and voting at high rates. Frugality and pragmatism. Depression-era scarcity instilled lifelong habits of saving, avoiding debt, and valuing stability over risk. This contrasted with the more idealistic lost generation or consumption-driven baby boomers. Community-oriented, emphasized collective effort, from wartime unity to post-war suburban communities. Social institutions like churches, unions, and veterans groups were central. Adaptability. Navigated rapid technological and social changes, from early radio to jet travel, while maintaining traditional values like family and hard work. Work-centric values. The greatest generation's approach to work was deeply tied to survival, duty, and societal contribution, making them one of the most work-centric generations. Strong work ethic. Work was a moral obligation, whether in factories, farms, or offices. Long hours and perseverance were badges of honor. Depression-era job scarcity meant holding on to any job, no matter how grueling, was a priority. Loyalty to employers. Many stayed with one company for decades, valuing job security and pensions. This loyalty was reciprocated by employers offering stable benefits, unlike later generations' experiences with corporate downsizing. Industrial and wartime contributions. During World War II, they powered the arsenal of democracy, with millions working in defense industries, as in shipbuilding, munitions. Women took on roles like welders and machinists, breaking gender norms. Post-war, they filled booming sectors like manufacturing, construction, and white-collar professions, driving economic expansion. Discipline and hierarchy. The greatest generation respected workplace authority and chain of command, reflecting military influences. They valued structure and clear roles, unlike Gen X's skepticism or Millennials' preference for flexibility. Economic pragmatism. Work was a means to provide for family and achieve stability, not necessarily personal fulfillment. Career choices were often practical, prioritizing steady income over passion. Cultural contributions. While less artistically avant-garde than the Lost Generation, the Greatest Generation left a lasting cultural imprint. Literature and media. Writers like Norman Mailer, The Naked and the Dead, and James Jones, From Here to Eternity, depicted wartime experiences with gritty realism. Journalists like Edward R. Murrow shaped wartime reporting, while Hollywood films, as in Casablanca, reflected their values of duty and romance. Music and entertainment. Big band and swing music, as in Glenn Miller, Benny Goodman, defined their youth, boosting morale during the war. Post-war, they embraced early rock and roll and crooners like Frank Sinatra, balancing tradition with emerging trends. Architecture and design. Post-war suburbanization led to the spread of tract homes, as in Levittown, and modernist architecture, reflecting their desire for stability and progress. Social norms. Reinforced traditional gender roles post-war, as in women returning to homemaking, but wartime necessity laid groundwork for later feminist movements. Social and political impact on the Greatest Generation. Civic engagement. Build enduring institutions like the United Nations, NATO, and U.S. social programs, as in Social Security expansion. High voter turnout and trust in government marked their era. Civil rights foundations. While racial segregation persisted, their war against fascism inspired early civil rights activism, with figures like Thurgood Marshall gaining prominence. Global leadership. Their efforts established the U.S. as a superpower, with policies like the Marshall Plan rebuilding Europe and countering Soviet influence. Family and education. Emphasized stable families and education, with the GI Bill sending millions to college, creating a more educated workforce. Here are some of the challenges and criticisms faced by the Greatest Generation. Conformist tendencies. Post-war emphasis on uniformity, as in suburban life, corporate culture, stifled individuality, criticized by later generations like the baby boomers. Racial and gender inequities. While progressive in some areas, they largely upheld systemic racism and traditional gender roles, delaying broader social change. War trauma. Many veterans suffered from untreated PTSD, and reintegration was challenging, though less stigmatized than in the Lost Generation's era. Economic disparities. Not all shared in post-war prosperity. Rural and minority communities often lag behind. Here is what might be said about modern perceptions and legacy left by the Greatest Generation. Heroic reputation. Brokaw's The Greatest Generation cemented their image as selfless heroes, though some argue this overlooks flaws like social conservatism. Intergenerational influence. Their work ethic and civic focus shaped the silent generation and baby boomers, but younger generations, as in Millennials, Gen Z, often prioritize flexibility over their rigid work-centric values. Declining presence. By 2025, most have passed away, with the youngest in their late 90s. Their legacy lives in infrastructure, institutions, and cultural memory. Here are some fun facts about the Greatest Generation. The term Greatest Generation gained traction after Brokaw's book, but some members disliked the label, feeling it overstated their heroism. Iconic figures include John F. Kennedy, born 1917, Audrey Hepburn, 1929, though sometimes grouped with the Silent Generation, and Doris Miller, a black Navy cook who heroically manned a gun during Pearl Harbor. The D-Day invasion and Victory Gardens symbolize their collective effort. Their frugality inspired sayings like, "Use it up, wear out, make it do, or do without." Here we look at the Greatest Generation's work-centric values, compared to the Lost Generation. Greatest Generation, more disciplined and collective, with work tied to national duty and family provision. Their loyalty to employers and institutions contrasted with the Lost Generation's individualism. Lost Generation, value creative or pragmatic work, but often prioritize personal expression or survival over institutional loyalty, reflecting their disillusionment. Here is a short list of some of the more significant inventions made by people of the Greatest Generation. Penicillin. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin in 1928. Nuclear reactor. Enrico Fermi and the Manhattan Project jet engine. Frank Whittle and Hans von Ohain. Transistor. John Bardeen, Walter Bratton, and William Shockley at Bell Labs. Polaroid instant camera. Edwin Land. The following are some of the richest people from the Greatest Generation. J. Paul Getty, Getty Oil, Howard Hughes. Hughes Tool Company and expanded into aviation. H.L. Hunt, Texas Oil, particularly through the East Texas oil field, Sam Walton, founder Walmart, Aristotle Onassis, a shipping magnate, Sid Richardson, a Texas oil man and close associate of H.L. Hunt. The Greatest Generation produced writers who shaped 20th century literature, often reflecting the Great Depression, World War II, and post-war societal shifts. Here's a short list of some of the most prominent literary figures from this generation and their key contributions. John Steinbeck, known for The Grapes of Wrath and of Mice and Men, which won the Nobel Prize. William S. Burroughs, known for Naked Lunch. J. D. Salinger, best known for The Catcher in the Rye. Norman Mailer, writer of The Naked and the Dead and The Armies of the Night. James Baldwin, a powerful voice on race and identity, who wrote Go Tell It on the Mountain and Notes of a Native Son. The Greatest Generation included musicians who defined mid-20th century music, shaped by the Great Depression, World War II, and the post-war boom, excelling in jazz, classical, and early rock. Here's a short list of prominent musicians from this generation and their key contributions. Frank Sinatra, known for My Way and Come Fly With Me, Ella Fitzgerald, known as the First Lady of Song. Fitzgerald's virtuosic jazz vocals shown in standards like Summertime. Leonard Bernstein, a composer and conductor, Bernstein created West Side Story. Chuck Berry, a pioneer of rock and roll, Berry's guitar riffs and songs like Johnny Be Good laid the foundation for modern rock, influencing countless artists. Billie Holiday, known for Holiday's Strange Fruit and God Bless the Child. Thank you for taking the time to view this video. If you like exploring topics that stay outside the typical subject matter, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And be sure to hit the notification bell for the next part covering the exploration of the generations over the past 150 years. In this part, we covered the Greatest Generation. In our next video, we will cover the Silent Generation. Look for links in the description for our YouTube channels, which explore other areas. Also, look at other videos on the site. Thank you,